Now, you don't need to go into space to find a cheap gaming PC, although the idea is nice. You don't even need to go looking for one. Sometimes they just end up on your doorstep. But what the hell to do with it? My name's Andy, and this is Andy's Tech, and we've got another beat up old unloved gaming PC to look at today. Now, I feel I should explain the intro a little bit more before we dig into things any deeper. Okay, so this PC has technically cost me nothing. I took it in trade against my labour for building another system, so it owes me time, but wasn't technically dumped on my door. But what to do with it? I don't know. I'll let you guys be the judge, but maybe I was thinking of a flip-up challenge, recase it and sell it on. Please do let me know your thoughts down in the comments. My original thoughts were just to strip it for parts, but I thought we'd take a look at the system today as it stands, maybe clean it up a little bit as it's gross. Now, this was the OG condition when it was dropped off. I didn't take any footage unfortunately before, but yeah, that's maybe the worst PC internals I think I've ever seen. I had to lightly clean out the PC before I even wanted to turn it on, as it looked like a Halloween prop. I also binned the OG stock cooler, as you'll never guess what it was cooling. And I had this other Intel Pimp My Ride stock cooler lying about, but at least it has a copper slug and we've got some thermal compound now. If you do want to see some more behind the scenes action, most of my video antics go down on the Discord server, so please feel free to join, we'd love to have you. So this is the PC as it stands now. We have an ASRock B360 motherboard, so we're on the 8th and 9th gen Intel platform. It's a basic board but will do the job. Surprisingly, it works fine, as does the rest of the system. It has a usable rear I/O, M.2 support and all the other standard budget board features for this generation. But what's beneath that cooler, Andy, I hear you ask? Actually, we have an i7-8700, which is a 6-core 12-thread CPU and somewhat of an understated and often overlooked little beast. It has a base clock of 3.2 GHz and a max turbo of 4.6 GHz. There's 12 megabytes of smart cache and it has a TDP of 65 watts. Yes, it's been running that all-alley cooler as well for the last few years. I don't know what people are thinking. There's 16 gigabytes of RAM running at 2400 megahertz or mega transfers per second in dual channel. It's just standard stuff, no frills. There's no storage unfortunately, so I'll just be using my 1TB SATA SSD drive today for testing. I do have a box of like old freebie SSDs and HDDs, so if we do come to sell it on, I can add some storage in for next to nothing or free. Cable management is a half decent, half-assed job. I've seen worse, but I've seen a lot better. At least it's all in the right places, so they tried. But like, yeah, my OCD is killing me here. Around the back, there's a 400 watt 80 plus Cooler Master power supply, which is just about enough for the components in the build. It's also helping to vent some of the hot air out of the case, as you can probably see that the complete lack of airflow going on with one rear fan. So she's possibly a hottie as well as she stands. We'll have to see. GPU wise, we have a lovely looking white Asus GTX 1060 6GB that Zach TexTurf would be dribbling over right now. The 1060 6GB is still a great budget card in my opinion, and it will still play all the latest games. Well, yeah, apart from Starfield maybe. But we'll be testing that anyway, just for the shits and giggles. We do have some red bling going on with some LED strip action, and for the girls we date, it will work for us today. Now, PC building is a skill, and it's easy to build a PC, but to build one right is a different matter. But before I do anything else to this system, let's throw some games at it and see what it can do. Enjoy the benchmarks. And the first title tested today is going to be Fortnite. I thought I'd throw that in there right off the bat. The games are going to get a little bit more demanding as we go along. It's also worth noting as well, I'm running a slight overclock on the 1060 of 100 MHz on the core, 250 MHz on the memory. But I went with 1080p low, with TSR low, 66% resolution scaling and epic view distance. We achieved a really nice average FPS of 133. Typical Fortnite percentiles at 43 and 8. But Fortnite does tend to smoothen out the more you play it, and this was only the second match I dropped into. I got absolutely destroyed in the first match and come like 80th, so I dropped back into this second match to have another go. So yeah, high refresh rate experience in Fortnite. I've kind of made the game look a little bit pretty here. I mean, you could turn off TSR and you probably see like 150, 160 FPS, but I do like the look of TSR. It definitely improves the image quality a lot for like not a lot of sacrifice. Next up we have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, another sort of staple FPS shooter game. It's still really popular, even though we have this year's version coming out soon, Modern Warfare 3. 1080p basic settings, I always run with the basic preset. I can't really see any difference between the basic and the higher presets really, for the terms of like the graphical performance you lose over selecting a higher preset. FSR 2.1 at quality with medium textures. We achieved an average of 107 FPS, 1% to 77, 0.1% of 60, so very respectable Call of Duty experience. Warzone, you're probably more likely to see around a 60 or 70 FPS average, as that's a little bit more demanding. Talking of more demanding titles, we'll move on to Cyberpunk now, our first AAA of the day. 1080p low with FSR 2.1 set to quality. We achieved an average bang on 60 FPS with 1% of 42 and 0.1% of 29. Still an okay result in Cyberpunk. I mean, the 1060 is getting on quite a bit now, and to still see that we can achieve an average of 60 FPS, this was like taken over an hour's gameplay. So it has averaged out a bit with like driving round, indoor fights. I went out into the desert for a bit. I don't really mind playing Cyberpunk at a lower frame rate, but really the 60 is what we want to see. And considering like what this system is going to be worth in terms of value if we sell it on, sort of 250, 300 pounds, I think that's an okay result. And something that's not quite an okay result. I thought I'd test out Starfield last. Just why not? 1080p low with FSR on 66% resolution scale, so we weren't completely bottom of the barrel. The low preset sort of sets it to 50. Around New Atlantis we had an average of 33 FPS, 1% to 25, 0.1% of 23. I mean, for Starfield and a GTX 1060, that's probably about right, I would say. We saw a lot better in space. Obviously it's a less demanding area to be in. In space we saw high 40s on our average, with the 1% in the 30s and the 0.1% in the teens. I mean, you could play Starfield like this. It is capped to 30 FPS on the Xbox. You could certainly cap the game to 30, and it would be an okay experience in my opinion. Certainly play through the game, but yeah, I mean, it's nice to see. It's nice to see you can still get Starfield up and running on a lower end system like this. I mean, I know we have an i7-8700 which compare with a lot better GPU, but it's still pulling its weight, the little GTX 1060. So that's the games tested today, and not too shabby at all in my opinion. I was pleasantly surprised really. The system performed better than expected, and that little i7-8700 really surprised me. Temps were actually really good as well across the board. We were getting some okay numbers in the games also. Now I couldn't take the state of this PC any longer, so I spent 15 minutes cleaning it up after the benchmarks, and it looks so much tidier now, and yeah, not like McDonald's car park on a Friday night. Yeah, it's amazing what a few cable ties can do. But still, what to do with it? I'm thinking like a flip up challenge maybe, to see if we can sort of trade our way up to a high-end system or something like that. What I will do is I'll put a poll in the channel section a couple of days after this video comes out, and we'll sort of go from there. So the future is in your hands, guys. Be wise, my dear fellows. And on that note, yeah, that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you for watching and all the support as always. I've changed my video editing software as well to DaVinci Resolve, and I'm still trying to get my head around it and get to grips with it. So this video may have been a little crusty around the edges, so I do apologise for that. But it's a much better platform, and the content can only get better from here on in. Yeah, take care as always, lots of love, and hopefully see you in the next one. And yeah, just let me know what you want to do with this, guys. Cheers.